Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We sincerely hope that all of you had a very pleasant lunchtime. So now let us begin session 3 of the 15th Seoul ODA International Conference, which will be held under the theme of Exchanging Knowledge, Embracing New Experiences. And session 3 will be moderated by Dr. Gambold Basenjev, head of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, also known as UNSGEP, and its East and Northeast Asia office. So without further ado, let me hand off the microphone to our distinguished moderator. Dr. Basenjev, the floor is yours. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's my real pleasure to moderate this our third session entitled Exchanging Knowledge, Embracing New Experiences. As it's been discussed and presented throughout this morning, so we have faced with unprecedented challenges in recent years. And the development cooperation is not far from insulated from the disruptive effects of these multiple crises. While the core role of development cooperation is to support the long-term development needs, instead now the focus has shifted to respond to immediate challenges such as the climate crisis and these disruptive effects from the supply chain disruptions. So in addition, the impacts of this major, our challenge, COVID-19, have reduced the fiscal space for many countries, including donor countries. Amid this backdrop, there is then, for the global community, as well as the countries' governments, now there is a need to look for new, innovative ways or approaches to reinforce the ability of development cooperation to support the global development agenda. So, in this session, so we would like to address questions. How does the experience as a recipient country affect the current aid providing approaches? What can be the major consideration of emerging donors when building global partnership? In the context of today's interconnected global challenges, what are the advantages of partnerships? And what are the implications? What are the barriers for promoting global partnerships, and how do emerging donors respond to it? So we have 4 distinguished speakers for this session, 3 of whom are joining in person and with 1 joining virtually. Each of the speakers will have 15 minutes to share their insights, and then we will have 25 minutes for discussions and Q&A. This early, so I would like to ask our speakers to keep to the time allotted for us. We'll start off with the presentation from Mr. Watanabe Gayasani, Deputy Director General of Thailand International Cooperation Agency, TICA. Prior to his current position, Mr. Gayasani served as the Director of Partnership for Development Bureau from 2011 to 2021. Mr. Gayasani, we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, moderator. Your Excellency, distinguished speakers, brother and sister of the development cooperation sector, ladies and gentlemen, both joining us physically in Seoul and by online via YouTube live stream. It is my great honor to speak today at the 15th Seoul ODA International Conference. I would like to share our experience during the past when we experienced from the COVID-19. So we would like to quote some article on 13 January 2020. Thailand less report to WHO of Wuhan resident who traveled to Bangkok on July and tested positive for the SARS-CoV. This was the first case of COVID detected outside China. At that time, Thailand has the least response time and number of case studies. Logically, it should have been the first stop to fall under COVID-19, heavy impact to economy and citizen well-being due to having the least time to respond. At a New York Times back in July 2020 article titled, "No one knows well what Thailand is doing right, but so far it's working." They try to find a reason why Thailand can maintain the low levels of infected patients. Despite an influx of foreign visitors early in the year from countries badly hit by the coronavirus, Thailand has recorded fewer than 3,240 cases and 58 deaths. At that time, there has been no cases of local transmission for about 7 weeks. Thai government, along with the best practices around Thailand, has learned that Thai culture, such as the greeting gesture, exercise, non-physical contact. Thai people, following the Ministry of Public Health guidelines, have developed our own way of preventing COVID-19 and operating community farms and business at the same time. We become the more self-sufficient so that we are not only immune to the medical side of the virus, but the economic aspect as well. We found this best practice in local and rural areas when existing community plan together how to survive with their own agricultural products and limit the impact of the virus from interaction with high-risk groups. And we think that it is within our capacity, our capability, and our duty to share our best practices in 4 areas of security, namely health security, food security, job security, and energy security, along with the environmental security. Thailand Development Corporation has then become the catalyst to the method in coping with one of the most challenging interconnected global chains, especially in the Southeast Asian region. So I would like to introduce a moment to introduce my agency, Thailand International Cooperation Agency, or TICA. We are the focal point on official development assistance offered by the Kingdom of Thailand. As the former recipient and now emerging donor of development cooperation and home to many regional offices, Thailand have learned from its experience, acquire more and more knowledge from our past and present cooperation, development programs, and achievement to design better ways forward for the future. I would like to reaffirm our idea that demand-driven approach is a very effective promoter of a more sustainable outcome for all development programs. Perhaps developers and coordinators from all stakeholders having the same idea. Development demand and priority are the cause of sustainable contribution of our development program. And this continuation of project happened because of many reasons, but the main one is the lack of ownership, which come from the unclear demands. From our experience, many partners, development providers, stakeholders, and beneficiaries have their own ways, ideas, and policies regarding the approach to development cooperation. So the major consideration of TICA is to compatibility of our own policies and our partners' policies. Ideally, Emerging donors should only be considering and providing support based on the shared areas of interest when building a global partnership, but our policy and our conditions set by our tech players, our governing bodies, and our situation. Therefore, there are two main points, which are the areas of interest and focus based on the expertise, and policy need to go in hand when making decisions to build any partnership. If I may share to the audience that just a few words about Thailand areas of interest and development goals in line with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kingdom of Thailand foreign policy. Thailand's our homegrown development approach, we call the sufficiency economy philosophy or SCP, is the fundamental principle of our four mentioned areas of security as I mentioned. And the driving force behind most of our best practice in achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals or SDG. The cause of SEP is the decision-making paradigm through consideration of three principles: moderation, reasonableness, resilience or immunity, with the two conditions on knowledge and morality or integrity. This concept is a gateway to vast areas of development modality, especially human resource development. For SCP, we provide the human resource development is the key to wide range and long-lasting and impactful development. Many Thai scholars who study SCP and practice find its usage in many development and daily life activities, such as operating their own farms, calculating investment risks, or developing marketing strategy for community business. They have built, designed, lived their life around SCP, some of whom even wrote back to us to help them teach SCP in their countries. These are just a few examples to illustrate how wide range, long-lasting, and impactful SCP is. To the COVID-19, Team Thailand has brought our main focus to protecting our citizens from its negative impact and sharing what we learned to international community. With online conference technology, we have shared our best practice with both developed by Thai Ministry of Public Health and local Thai citizens with the help of Thai academics through Thai Knowledge Bank on COVID-19. Online platform for our medical and public health experts to share the knowledge in epidemiology, equipment operation, and so on. Our scholarship program, including annual international training course, Thailand International Postgraduate Program, bilateral program, triangular program, and regional program, or other program cooperation framework in which more than 10,000 scholars from more than 50 countries worldwide study from courses offered by Thailand's top university in the last 5 years. May I name some activity? In food security, we offer courses like food security, post-harvest processing and product development of selected agro-industrial products, sustainable production chain of safety, food and vegetables commodity with innovation, and drying technology of developing country. The third one is contribution of food science and technology to the next normal of food industry. In public health security, we also offer COVID-19 related courses like a collaborative and development of health system, how to strengthen the capacity of public health personnel during the COVID-19 pandemic, or early childhood health promotion and healthcare management beyond COVID-19. And in job security, we help community in our neighboring countries build a strong business network from the ground up using SEP practice. And in energy and environmental security, we help provide knowledge for our African partners to have access to locally produced energy and to be less reliant on external energy source. The current state of the world by the context of volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous and interconnected global challenge or VUCA. Thailand's approach aims to provide resilience and stability to the world's vulnerable community and population. However, our effort alone cannot overcome these global challenges. Thailand has believed that the global partnership for development with strongly connected collaboration and rigid structure of rules and regulation is needed to secure the health and economic stability of the developing world and succeed in solving both scientific and social global challenges. The main advantage of the partnership, as implied in many contexts, is extended capacity and impact. The idea that we are able to do things we cannot do on our own is the importance of partnership, but partnership can also have disadvantage. To achieve the global partnership, we need to build a multi-level, worldwide, and inclusive partnership. This process takes time and effort, I think. There are barriers to overcome as well. In the macro level, the international community still lacks rules and regulations governing development cooperation provider. The development resolution and dialogue mechanism has to be enhanced to make newly emerging provider conform the same norm as the existing provider, and at the same time allow emerging providers to institutionalize their views and ideas. This may resemble the current state of international law. It is a challenge that all who think the world need a global partnership of provider faces. So this particular conference is a good sign, and at least we are facing it together. And in the future, I believe that we will figure it out. In the micro level, there are still many issues such as overworked staff, travel restriction from COVID-19, language barrier, budget transaction issue. This issue that will go away if we draw more eyes to the problem and at hand and necessity of global partnership for development. So I think on conclusion, I think Thailand by its ODA focal point agency, TICA as a global partnership for development provider would like to reaffirm our belief that with the support and open mind cooperation of our partner, I think no barrier cannot be overcome. Only an interconnected global partnership can solve interconnected global challenges. That's all about it. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gayasani, for your presentation and for sharing Thailand's unique approach towards development cooperation based on its very famous sufficiency economy philosophy, which is the balanced way of life, which very well resonates to the responses needed for this global interconnected challenges we face now. Thailand's comprehensive advantage in agricultural sector and health industry, especially in battling COVID-19, are a very good example how developing countries can transform and reinvigorate the development cooperation landscape through the incorporation of areas of national strengths into cohesive programs, which in turn is leveraged upon joint partnerships both regionally and globally. Now we have our second speaker, Mr. Turmabulang Lumban Tobing, President of Indonesian Agency for International Development, Indonesian Aid. Mr. Lumban Tobing is fully responsible to navigate the operations of Indonesian aid as a new development partner. Mr. Lumban Tobing, we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, moderator, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a challenge to convey some messages, especially in the difficult times, because we just get our lunch and then we tend to sleep. But I do hope all of you still enjoy the presentation. Responding to the question already put forward by the moderator, I'd like to share with you what I'm going to present. So this is the outline of my presentation. I will briefly introduce Indonesian Aid and what we have been doing for 2 years since it was established. And then also like to explain how as a recipient, the experience as a recipient contribute to how we construct our assistance. And also the question, what's the benefits of the partnership, and then of course, what's the implication? And lastly, also to share with you the barriers to promoting partnership and how we respond to that barriers. Indonesian agency actually is a unit within the Ministry of Finance and with 2 main functions. So the function number 1 is Indonesian is assigned to manage the international fund, so-called endowment fund. So the idea is we're trying to make how we finance our cooperation not directly linked to the state budget in the future, but we're doing self-financing later on. And the second is also to manage the provision of assistance, either to foreign countries and also institutions. And at the initial stage of this entity, we until May 2022 already have received the endowment from the state budget in around $345 million, and we do hope by the end of this 2024 we can accumulate these resources to be $690 million. Of course, this resource is not to be spent, but to manage, to do investment in bonds or securities and other financial instruments. And in 2020, all our foreign assistance is wholly covered by state budget, but starting from last year, the resources, the revenues created by the Indonesian Aid had contributed to the foreign assistance. And this year, all the cooperation, the assistance we provide will be covered through the Indonesian Aid revenues. So we start from this year. Of course, as a new entity, we also have a vision how to become a professional, credible, and independent management institution for international development cooperation funds. And our mission, one is to support the SDGs. And as a part of the government entities, also support the foreign policy. And then in terms of the organizational structure, we are very small. So we start from the small one. As to quote there is a very old type of book. The title of the book by Schumacher, "Small is Beautiful." in terms of what we are doing since the establishment, when it was established in 2019, not much we can do because, as I think we all know, that what happened in 2020, the pandemic COVID-19, we don't have any much operation, but still we can still manage to provide some assistance to our neighboring country, in particular on the COVID-19 as well. So that's why in this chart for the SDGs health, we provide more assistance to these goals. And also for 2022 until 2023, we have more goals that we serve, and we are expecting by the coming years will becoming more and more area that can be served through our assistance. In terms of the region adjustment, while in the 22 until 21, we just give some, we do cooperation just in the 5 regions. Then in start from this year, we expand this engagement to until in 7 regions. As a new emerging donor, we have a challenge. The first one is in terms of communication. Because the new agencies, sometimes the communication process require more effort because there's the recipient has a bureaucracy, and of course they also have internal procedures that have to respect. And sometimes Indonesian aid is unable to communicate directly to the prospective grantees, and that's why we have to ask the assistance of our embassies. And also, of course, the challenge about the geographical condition. There is a case that even to do online meeting, we cannot do that because this geographical condition. And the second is sometimes we also receive the proposal is very lack of information. That's why again need times to build this case and try to understand how the situation in our partner that don't think as your station similar to them. So that's why we have to work out how to provide, to establish a good proposal. The third challenge is a decision-making process. We experience that even very small assistance need approval from several ministries. And then even sometimes there is a need, the approval from the parliament. Of course, this decision-making process also handle our assistance to be more and more. And of course, still new, we have limited resources, and we don't have any representative in the field. Now, how the experience as a recipient contribute to how we shape our approach? Again, Indonesia still a recipient, but at the same time we start to giving. So we have the jargon here, giving while still receiving. We received many assistance in the past. Of course, you will be getting less and less, and then we receive a wide range of areas from the infrastructure and also the reform. And of course, the reform you already done in our country is a good case that can be shared to others. And we also have received the resistance from many development partners. And each development partner, of course, has its own mechanism. And all these things also contribute to how we approach, how we deliver our cooperation. All this best practice as a result of the assistance we received in the past will be shared to the other countries. Even the mechanism we have now is also inspired by how the development partners assist us in the past. I think global participation is a need for Indonesian aid, for several reasons. Because through global participation, we expect we can expedite the delivery of assistance or cooperation. And for the Indonesian aid as well is to enhance our capacity. But of course, there is an implication of the global partnership. There should be global partnership needs. The assistance should be integrated in order to avoid the overlapping intervention. And development may be focused on its comparative advantage. And then coordination, I think, is a must. Maybe can done through the regular forum or information sharing. Now, what's the barrier to promoting partnership? I think number one is we have the national interest. And we are obliged to fulfill that. So, and sometimes maybe the national policy not fully aligned with the global partnership program. And because partnerships are done voluntarily, so there is a risk that the partnership may be not fully commit to carry on what has been agreed. And then in our case, we have a regulation actually that not easy for us to participate in the global partnership. And then, of course, again, we have limited resources. That's why when we are going to join a partnership, we should be selective. Our response to this barrier is, I think for the future in our strategy, should be include the program so-called the Global Development Challenge. And also that there is a challenge we have now is to how to priority should be defined and should be part of the collaboration or to be shared with the international community. And then the response I quote from the report, Partnership for Sustainable Development, Inclusive Cross-Sector by Rodin. I think partnership does require to find the right balance between mutual commitment and compatibility and complementary of the expertise that different sectors can bring. So that's the message I want to convey from Indonesian Aid as a new partner. I hope our dream sometime in the future, the Indonesian Aid can be as a major development partner in the future. I stop here. Thank you very much for listening. I over to you, moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Luman Tobing. It's very exciting to see how this Indonesian aid is being evolved and rapidly developed in less than 3 years after its establishment under your leadership. So you described a number of challenges, like the communication, lack of communication, insufficient information, and you mentioned also this is the inconsistent regulations and regulations. So I would briefly just comment that where exactly the exchanges and partnerships among development cooperation agencies, as well as the multilateral bodies like the United Nations, which have a very strong presence, field presence, could be coming with their role of facilitating exchange of information, best practices, and knowledge across the board of the program and projects under agencies such as Indonesian aid. So the evolution of Indonesian aid over time, taking into account global and regional trends, also incorporated design elements based on Indonesia's prior experiences as a recipient, would be helpful to ensure better delivery and accountability of ODA programs across both the donors and recipient community. Now we have our next speaker who is joining us online, Mr. Rahman Nurdun, Vice President of Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency, TICA. Mr. Nurdun also served as the head of TICA Ulaanbaatar Program Coordination Office between 2010 and 2011, and the head of East and Southeast Asia, Pacific and Latin America Department between 2014 and 2018. Mr. Nurdun, we are looking forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you very much, moderator. Good morning, everybody from Turkey, and many thanks for Koika for inviting me to the important conference. Taking this opportunity, I would like to present my warm regards to all panelists of this session. I wish this conference great success. Without further ado, now I would like to share our position, Turkey's position, regarding the three questions mentioned in this session, and try to provide some food for thought. As far as the question number one is concerned of the session about experience of recipient country, how the experience of recipient country affect the current aid providing approaches. Well, with 30 years experience, Turkey has enormous experience in the field of international cooperation and development. Turkey has been a country which not only receive international development aid and also at the same time receiving the foreign aid for a long time. This uniqueness enabled Turkey to create its own original perspective in handling international development cooperation. While Turkey shares many of the DAC values and principles, it also shares with the southern partners its status as a development country and experience as a recipient. The similarities and differences of Turkish aid model from both DAC and non-DAC assistance provide a lesson that we do not necessarily have to be limiting ourselves to certain categories and blocks in development cooperation. Instead, we can make use of the different modalities and experiences in a diverse cooperation landscape with the increasing participation and contribution of the southern partners. Turkey development cooperation combines innovative elements in many ways. Turkish TICA's aid approach mainly defines as sincere, transparent, unconditional, demand-oriented results responding quickly to needs and crises of developing countries based on mutual learning. As for I'll try to answer the question number 2 for you mentioned the session. Given bad impact of various global crises, it is increasingly important that we empower partnerships for sustainable development. This point has been mentioned both by my previous colleague from Thailand and Indonesia. In this sense, increasing the scope and unleashing the potential South-South cooperation is more important than ever today. One of the most important aspects of newly accepted SDGs is that they have framed the development beyond aid and also beyond the aid architecture based on North-South aid transfers, implying the need of traditional donor-recipient relationships. Our responsibility in this new developed environment is to give Southern partners more voice and more prominent role in global development cooperation, regardless of position as providers or receivers. Although the South-South cooperation has a strong historical roots back to the 1950s, the Southern providers have not yet exerted a strong impact on the ground. To achieve this, I think we need to better understand the nature and modalities of South-South cooperation and the ways and the means to enhance its contribution to sustainable development. This requires more workshops and gatherings. Also, these points being mentioned by both previous speakers as well. At a technical level, to translate this commitment into operative actions. We are the Southern provider need a regular platform and working groups to define and put into practice South-South cooperation contribution to the Agenda 2030. These forums featuring mutual benefit, equality, openness, inclusiveness are expected to intensify solidarity and mutual support between Southern donors and their contribution to the 2030 development agenda. South-South cooperation actors could greatly benefit from increased intra-South-South coordination mechanisms aimed at developing consensus and promoting knowledge exchange, institutional strengthening, sharing of good practices. We believe as Turkey that their diversity, evident in Southern donors' different modalities, could be a positive factor rather than being a disadvantage. There is a huge potential for South-South cooperation to complement the support of developed countries. Bilateral, multilateral donors from the North and international organizations, especially UN specialized agencies, can play an important role to promote and facilitate this cooperation and make use of its potential for the achievement of sustainable development goals. However, we believe it should be the Southern actors themselves that should play the leading role in shaping the scope and boundaries of South-South cooperation. Today, Southern donors seem to change the status quo of the current development architecture, both in terms of discourse and practice. These donors may follow different paths in accordance with their own traditions and standards. And we are very happy to see new emerging donors like Thailand and Indonesia are working for these goals. Southern providers are increasingly offering recipient countries a new way of cooperation and places emphasis on notions of mutual benefit, respect for sovereignty, demand-driven, and no strings attached policies. The South-South cooperation boundaries should be transparent and available to the broad membership of Southern countries. The scope of the guiding principles should remain flexible, open, but at the same time efficient. In recent years, Turkey's development cooperation has grown remarkably fast and has surpassed the contributions of many established donors who are also the members of DAC committees in both absolute numbers as well as in terms of ODA GDP ratio. The similarities and differences of Turkish aid model from both DAC and non-DAC assistance should provide a lesson that we do not necessarily have to subject ourselves to certain categories, as I said before. Indeed, instead we can make use of different modalities experiences in a diverse cooperation landscape. At this point, we believe that Turkey can play a significant role as a bridge between traditional and southern donors. I'm trying to answer the last question, the question number 3. I believe there's no doubt that in a world where political and economic landscape is rapidly changing, the nature of development cooperation must also change. The development landscape has transferred itself drastically in recent years. Paradigms, approaches, modalities, and players are more heterogeneous than ever before. Thus, the international donor community is now reassessing the roles and responsibilities of the various stakeholders involved in international development cooperation. Much has been written and said in recent years about the rise of the southern donors in the development aid landscape, challenging the traditional global aid architecture that has mainly been framed by the northern perception, strategies, and practices. Despite the popular perception, however, most of the southern donors are not new to providing development aid. Countries such as Turkey, China, and India have a long history of development cooperation, which are not well known to the northern-dominated development cooperation agenda for a long time. The development cooperation architecture in which the North transfers technology and models of development to the South is long gone. Much of the innovations that drive development today have their origins in the South. If you reflect on the changes that have taken place in the global economy and recent landscape since the signing of the first BAPA 40 years ago, it is quite clear that South-South cooperation cannot be relegated to technical cooperation among official agencies in today's world. Although technical cooperation continues to be a significant component of the South-South cooperation in areas of finance, trade, and investment is as important. In this regard, the outcome document of the BAPA 40 makes a timely call for the broader scope collaboration, and that goes beyond the technical aspects to address global issues. On the basis of mutual interest in facilitating the development knowledge and experience shared around the world, Turkey has developed different types of partnerships with other bilateral multilateral donors. We believe the South-South cooperation and triangular modality is becoming more and more significant in the changing landscape of international cooperation. As a major actor among the developing countries, developing donors on the development cooperation world, Turkey has a lot of success stories in South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation. Our partners have ranged from UN agencies to restructured donors such as GIZ and JICA, and to the southern donors such as Mexico and Singapore. These partnerships have brought a substantial and sustainable contribution to our development cooperation experience. While Turkey directs the vast majority of its ODA toward bilateral programs, it also effectively uses the cooperation opportunities with other multilateral and bilateral donors. To conclude my speech, I would like to say a few words about the barriers. So far as the barriers concerned, just a few words. The number one, lack of better understanding of nature and modalities. The second is there is need of better understand nature of modalities and the need of more workshops and gatherings at technical level to translate commitments to operative actions. And the third, we need to promote openness, inclusive approach, mutual benefit. Last, well, the G7 agenda are not, I guess, not suitable for each country, especially South countries, because the emergent challenges are very much ignored. Well, thank you very much, and for your patience. Back to you, moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nurdun. Indeed, the South-South cooperation is one of the key modalities delivering the development cooperation and growing in importance, especially in the face of the multimodal challenges we face now, which cannot be addressed singularly by traditional donors alone. The growing success and experiences of South-South cooperation in triangular cooperation over the years by countries such as Turkey are building the momentum for mutual assistance in innovative solutions across the development cooperation community, and happily continues to further the field of development cooperation itself. For the fourth speaker, we have Mr. Dastan Yulikyanov, Chairman of the Executive Board of Kazakhstan Agency for International Development, KAZAID. Dastan Yulikyanov has previously held positions of the Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Ambassador of the Republic of Kazakhstan in the Kingdom of Sweden and in the Kingdom of Denmark, among others. He is definitely someone who could really share the insights from the development of both strategies and programs of his agency, as well as the challenges they've been facing as a country, recipient country, as well as now, especially combining both recipient and donor country. Mr. Yulikyanov, we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Ambassador Basandrov. May I unmask for my presentation?
Sure.
Great relief. Distinguished participants, I would like to express deep gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea and the Korean International Cooperation Agency for organizing this remarkable event. This conference offers international partners a unique opportunity to come together and continue important conversations on the most pressing issues connected to development cooperation. It is thus a great honor for me to speak in front of such a respectable audience. Last December, Kazakhstan celebrated the 30th anniversary of its independence. A country with modest beginnings, Kazakhstan made a significant transition from a recipient of official development assistance to the first country in the Central Asian region to adopt the national law on ODA in 2014. Given Kazakhstan's geographic location, its national capacity, as well as challenges of global development, Kazakhstan has prioritized development assistance to the countries of its immediate neighborhood, Central Asia and Afghanistan. As a part of the global efforts, Kazakhstan's ODA can also be focused on the Caucasus region, Africa, Latin America, landlocked states, least developed countries, as well as other regions in order to achieve maximum synergy in the activities of the Republic of Kazakhstan. As a relatively young actor in development, Kazakhstan has been striving to strengthen cooperation and coordination with other donors, both traditional and emerging, to enhance the capacity of its development initiatives. For example, in 2017, before creation of KAZAID, Kazakhstan implemented its pilot national ODA project, a series of scientific and practical seminars for agricultural workers from Central Asian countries, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. The initiative was implemented in close cooperation with the UNDP in Kazakhstan and Israeli Agency for International Development Cooperation, MASHAF. Later in 2017-2018, with support from the UNDP and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, Kazakhstan launched a project titled Promoting Kazakhstan's ODA Cooperation with Afghanistan, aimed at the empowerment of Afghan women in the fields of public administration and healthcare. Due to the project's success, Kazakhstan continued our development partnership with Afghanistan in the following years by offering Afghan students an opportunity to receive internationally competitive education at Nazarbayev University in Kazakhstan's capital through ODA mechanism. The cooperation experience with other donors during the implementation of Kazakhstan's pilot ODA projects has demonstrated the effectiveness of trilateral cooperation, which subsequently became deeply integrated into Kazakhstan's approach to providing development assistance. As a former recipient country, Kazakhstan attaches great importance to the development of mutually beneficial relations with its development cooperation partners. Today, the world is facing numerous complex challenges which require comprehensive global solutions, and we believe that they can be found through drawing from each other's unique local knowledge, experience, and expertise. Kazakhstan acknowledges that partnership between DAC and non-DAC donors can create important synergies. New donors can learn a lot from the more experienced development partners and benefit from triangular cooperation mechanisms, which are a great source of additional expertise and funding. At the same time, donors with higher capacity and global presence can benefit from the local expertise, historical ties, and cultural and linguistic understanding smaller regional providers might offer. For instance, in 2021, KAZ8 partnered with the USAID Competitiveness, Trade and Job Creation Project, USAID Employment Program, and the US Department of Commerce to deliver online seminar titled The Power of Women Growth Trends in the Post-Pandemic COVID-19 Era. The initiative was aimed at female entrepreneurs from Central Asia and Afghanistan and was attended by almost 200 participants. In addition, emerging donors can add extra legitimacy to foreign actors as members of important regional networks and facilitate deep partnership, especially in the face of sensitive political development. For instance, given Kazakhstan's position as a Muslim majority country, which still operates its embassy in Kabul, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Kazakhstan hosted a roundtable on strengthening the instruments of cooperation in the framework of international development assistance to Afghanistan. The event was attended by representatives of embassies of donor countries, donor organizations, UN agencies, and international financial institutions. Furthermore, partnership enhances capacity of emerging donors through technical assistance and implementation of joint projects. For that purpose, KAZ8 signed a series of MOUs with the leading donor organizations such as USAID, KOICA, Israeli Mashaf, TICA, and others. In the framework of these agreements, KAZ8 regularly participates in the capacity building activities, joint initiatives, and projects. Kazakhstan also understands the value of horizontal cooperation and aims to prioritize the participation of local partners in creating innovative and nuanced solutions. Due to this reason, our agency has built strong partnership with important local and regional development actors. The Regional Environmental Center for Central Asia, CAREC, the Association for Development of Civil Society, ARGO, the Central Asian Office of International Trade Center, ITC, and the Astana Civil Service Hub, ACSH. The latter is the flagship initiative of the government of Kazakhstan and UNDP for providing technical assistance in promoting civil service effectiveness. As an example, the Astana Civil Service Hub, the government of the Republic of Korea and the UNDP launched a project aimed to enhance the capacity of civil servants involved in public administration and digitalization of public services in Central Asia and the Caucasus. The project is financed by the government of the Republic of Korea and implemented in partnership with its Ministry of Interior and Safety and the National Information Society Agency. KAZAID is dedicated to cooperating with key local organizations like Astana Civil Service Hub because it creates a vivid example of local and regional cooperation, which is vital for both new and traditional donors. As we all know, the field of international development is becoming increasingly polycentric as the new development actors continue to emerge. It must be emphasized, however, that emerging donors are not a homogeneous group and differ in their approaches, values, experiences, and expertise. While the international academic and policy communities have made an important contribution through carefully studying the impact and aid philosophies of the big bilateral emerging donors, such as the BRICS countries, the experiences of smaller regional actors remain underexplored. This critical gap in knowledge about the regional and area-specific expertise should be closed by vigorous research. In turn, development actors should cooperate with the scientific community to ensure smooth and productive knowledge transfer. It is also important to acknowledge that there remain asymmetric relations not only between donors and partners countries, but also among donors themselves. Donors' status and perception in partner countries play an important role in ensuring aid effectiveness. Therefore, new donors should pay special attention to how they engage with their beneficiaries, how responsive they are to local needs, and how their activities are perceived by the partners' countries. There are not only challenges that new development actors face. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has put an enormous pressure on the entire world, reverting some positive developments on the previous years and exacerbating racial, gender, socioeconomic, and other inequalities. The pandemic has once again demonstrated the importance of information and technology and prompted international aid agencies to adapt to the new circumstances. As such, Kazakhstan has implemented a series of online development projects in close partnership with JICA, UNESCAP, and MASHAF to continue its cooperation to the development of the Central Asian region and Afghanistan amid the major health crisis. Moreover, it is important to take into account that although our development efforts are aimed at making a long-lasting positive impact, those achievements can be vulnerable in the face of various factors. The current situation in Afghanistan has demonstrated how fragile the results of the long-term development assistance can be. The issue of gender inequality in Afghanistan has long been a major target for the donor community. Nevertheless, after the political turmoil of August 2021, many Afghani women could no longer participate in the development activities organized by international organizations. Economic crisis and reduction of countries' ODA spending, I think it is reasonable to say that all donors face some challenges when it comes to their ODA spending. However, this is especially relevant for smaller bilateral providers, which are often forced to make significant reductions in their ODA contributions. One of the strategies we have employed was to making ODA projects more specific, which is reflected in a deeper focus on areas of major concern, as well as fewer participants which are selected after a rigorous process. Moreover, while the previously implemented projects primarily took place in Kazakhstan, some future activities are planned to be organized in partner states. Dear colleagues, distinguished participants, the world is facing a growing number of challenges which demand closer cooperation between different actors. With that, let me conclude by expressing a strong recognition that an enhanced joint regional action and international cooperation is vital to finding solutions to the world's most challenging issues. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Yurikeno, for sharing the experiences of CASAID. CASAID provides a very good example of how this agency can leverage joint partnerships, as well as similarly what Kayasani mentioned earlier, in its national strengths in order to produce win-win outcomes and deepen the engagement of Kazakhstan and its geographic region. On this note, so we are rounding up our session with presentations with the rich insights and interesting perspectives shared by our speakers. Now we are moving on to our Q&A segment. I received a number of questions through the chat box. So first question to Watanabe. Your presentation clearly highlighted the shift in your agency's role from receiving to sharing. Briefly, Watanabe, could you share with us what do you think is a key factor which enabled that shift?
Thank you very much. I think from our experience as the recipient countries in the past, we learned a lot from our partner countries as donor, traditional donor countries, providing assistance to our countries. The experience that we learned is that our partner countries they encourage Thailand as the partner and involve us in the cooperation process from the beginning, as we should be in the path of the planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. So that builds us the sense of ownership, builds us of the sense of belonging. So they values us as a partner, not just only the donor recipient. So I think this is the key principle that whenever we provide our technical cooperation to our partner countries, like recipient countries from Thailand. So we are not going to thinking about donor recipient as well. We're thinking about they are our partner. We provide the partner of our cooperation. So we don't say that we are providing the technical assistance. We are providing the technical cooperation. The assistance and cooperation may be different meaning. Because assistance, our beneficiary country may think that we always providing them everything, but in the sense that we want to encourage them to be a partner. They also some providing us at least the in-kind contribution or even in cash if they can offer in our process, because we think that our project or what our program providing for them, it belong to them, not belong to Thailand. So this is the sense of ownership, sense of the belonging. We try to create this sense of ownership. And we also thinking about the mutual benefit, mutual interest. That I think by this sense, all party concerned can build the partnership, can value the cooperation program that we can work with them, we can learn from them. We are not only providing them, but they also providing us some knowledge, sharing some experience we learn from them. So we try not to think about this is the provider and receiver. We try to think about we are the partnership in our cooperation program. So this is very important issue I raised in my presentation. That is a principle or key success factor that Thailand and our partner countries should build together, because whenever we are the emerging provider, so we can build things together, we can complement with each other. So this is the key principle that we try to shifting from the recipient to providing countries to any other countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Watanabe. So I received a number of questions addressed to Toby. The audience, both online and on site, quite curious about the Indonesian aid strategies and policies. So the question is, I just make one out of those questions addressed to you. How the Indonesian aid does balance national interests and international interests, and what is the criteria of assessment for your agency towards the prospective recipient country? Tobin.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you for a very good question. The question is about how to balance between national interest and then international or recipient interest. Of course, we have to see this through case by case. Let's say, in terms of there is a humanitarian assistance, I think the focus not national interest, but leave it to the fully to support the partner that's facing the situation. So that's the key point in our discussion with the other ministries. And the second, of course, if we have, like, say, a program that we have some time to prepare, so try to balance, between what the interests of our national interests that can be accommodated in this cooperation. Because here, so like a public entity is also need to respond if there is any question from our stakeholder in the domestic. We have to provide the information. What's the benefit for this cooperation for our side? So that's the why we have to do the to balance this. Again, there is no simple question. Simple answer to this question. But in the challenging time, we have a mechanism. We call it working group, comprises of 4 ministries. Minister of Foreign Affairs is there, and of course the Minister of Finance, and also Ministry of National Development Planning, and then the Ministry of State Secretary. Based on this discussion, and of course the experience we have, how to balance this is more on based on our agreement. Actually, we cannot decide it by ourselves, but need some information or background what should be focused. Let's say when you start a cooperation. That's my response. Over to you, moderator.
Yeah, thank you, Toby. So next question is to Rahman. Your presentations highlighted the importance of partnerships. For emerging donors, such partnerships may not be automatic, especially in the initial phases. Briefly, from your agency's experience, what is the good entry point for new players in development cooperation to build such partnerships?
Well, thank you very much. That's a good question. Well, as I mentioned in my presentation, we are right now in kind of crossroads of international development because we have lots of new donors, new players, and new aid architecture because the old system, the North providers and the southern receivers doesn't work anymore because the northern established donors, have been offering the development assistance for so many years, but the result, we all see the result because still the world is the same. I'm not going to say, but still not very much developed already, and we are now talking about the agenda, how to reach the agenda 2030. That's why I would like to put emphasis on the 2030 agenda, the BAPA plus 40, because only the providers, there's kind of solidarity very much needed among the southern donors, because southern partners, because we have lots of the share and lots of things we're going to, for us for mutual learning, because it's kind of solidarity. And we as a country, which has been receiving the foreign aid for so many years, and now we understand, we know the exact needs and the demands of the partner countries, because the receiving end is no longer the right word. I should say partners, because my previous speakers mentioned about the colleagues mentioned about it's technical cooperation. It's not the technical assistance. This is a very good point, because it's a process of mutual learning. That's why we need a special platform. It's not easy task, because all mention about the we need to improve the importance of the partnership, but it's not easy job, because we need to kind of set up kind of standard, which is similar to the DAG, the OECD DAG, but it's not easy job. But we should start to think about it, because we should work for it and go for it. Otherwise, we will remain at the end of the day to talk about the same problems, same difficulties in future years. So that's why it's today's session and the conference are very much grateful for KOICA and for the Ministry of Trade and Foreign Affairs of Korea to sponsor this conference and this session. These are very important questions, and we need to answer properly and to work for it. And as Turkey, and we have tried to share our knowledge, to share our experience, our partners. As I mentioned, we have cooperations with multilateral donors like UN agencies, FAO, UNIDO, UNDP, and all those specialized agencies, and some bilateral donors like GIZ and JICA, and we have cooperation agreement with KOICA, and we even set up our cooperation with Kazakhstan Aid, KazAid, which was mentioned just now by the board of directors of Kazakhstan Aid. And also we managed to have a cooperation program with AZAID, which stands for Azerbaijan Aid Corporation. And these are very positive steps which could lead us for a bright future for the southern donors, because we really need to do something to change this current situation, because architecture is rapidly changing, lots of emerging donors. As I mentioned just now, the countries in the south, they have a very rich history. Back in 1950s, I mentioned about China, I mentioned about India. I forgot to mention about the Arab Fund for those Arabian countries, and they have such long history. But we should institutionalize our aid efforts to make it a strong voice. And at the same time, this doesn't mean we can going to substitute the aid, the cooperation from the north, because this can be the complement to the cooperation effort from the north, because the northern countries, they have the technology, they have rich experience, but they may not need what exactly needed by the southern partners. So that's why Turkey is in a unique position to bridge this gap, and we are working on it, and hopefully we're going to do our best and to work for it and go for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raman. So there is a question for Dastan. So given your countries and your regions heavy dependence on the use of fossil fuels and being landlocked geographically, so how much the green economy concept is being reflected in the strategies of KAZ8 in particular, and Kazakhstan's economic cooperation as a whole?
Thank you. Actually, our region, despite common historical roots, common language roots, actually consist of different countries in terms of green economy, green energy. For example, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, they produce electricity on hydro power plants, and especially Tajikistan, it has enormous potential of green energy. But Kazakhstan, you're right. So the person who asked this question indeed heavily depends on carbon energy, and Uzbekistan too. And but in terms of Uzbekistan, well, let me remind you about the phrase which the representative of UN Office for South-South Cooperation used. She said about an analogy of rendering assistance with the water flows, and well, it's a very good analogy. But in terms of our region, it's literally our assistance depends on transboundary rivers. It's a complex of complex issue of energy, environmental issues, agriculture, and it's very important. Unfortunately, in some cases, there were even conflicts between states on water issues, water use. So water management is extremely important for us, and we recently signed an MOU with national movement of Uzbekistan. Name is Yuksalish, which and one of the aspects of that MOU. One of the provision was about concerning green economy, green energy. Our partners, our neighbors, were in Uzbekistan very much interested, and especially in regional projects, because we cannot solve separately, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, the issues of green energy in terms of producing, generating electricity on hydropower plants without our neighbors, upstream countries, as Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. And so we optimistic about our cooperation in that field. And well, this issue is so big, I mean, green economy, and which is strongly connected with other issues, environmental. You know about the natural disaster which happened in the region of Aral Sea, which dried up almost completely. So we, and also Uzbekistan is in future will be one of the main producers of solar energy, and Turkmenistan is also they have great potential in terms of production of solar energy, and Kazakhstan also creates some generating capacity in terms of solar energy. So the work is going on, and but of course it is not that easy to refuse from using hydrocarbons in our in Kazakhstan for production electro energy, but as since our agency work outside of Kazakhstan, not inside, so I think that we it would be better to address this question to specialists in Kazakhstan. But in terms of regional cooperation, I think that we have good prospects. Thank you.
Thank you, our distinguished speakers, for both your presentations and the answers. So now we come to the end of our time allotted for us on this engagement. Now we conclude our session with a few takeaway messages. On those questions we received through both chat box, I really regret for not being able to address because of time constraints. Our speakers have highlighted the shifts in the role of countries in the development cooperation sphere, from recipient to the donors themselves. As emerging donors, there are many opportunities to explore new approaches in delivering assistance based on areas of strength, experiences as recipients, in order to deliver focused and impactful ODA program. So, however, it's not an easy task, especially these days, and the forging of regional and global partnerships are key, which would surely contribute to energizing South-South triangular cooperation dynamics, as well as the all over the development cooperation dynamics across the world. On this note, I thank our speakers, as well as our audience online and in person, for this productive discussion and engagement on this session. Thank you.
So that concludes session 3 of the 15th Seoul ODA International Conference. We would like to sincerely thank our distinguished moderator, Dr. Gambo Basenjev, the head of the UNSCAP East and Northeast Asia office, as well as all of our eloquent speakers who have kindly shared their expertise with us today. Thank you very much. And now we are going to take a 20-minute coffee break. And once again, refreshments will be available outside of the conference hall, so please help yourself. And our next session, which is a round table session, will commence at 3:50 p.m., 3:50 Korean Standard Time. So please enjoy your break and please come back to your seats on time. Now, have fun. Thank you.